So, welcome back to the Raising Our Vibration podcast, where we explore higher consciousness through spiritual practice. And today, Stephen and I are going to discuss the possibility of radical peace and compassionate action. So, conflict in our world comes from inner tension. There was never anyone who had an aggressive or violent action towards another that didn't come from tension that was inside. And so to resolve these inner tensions takes persistent, compassionate action within ourselves and toward ourselves and with others over an extended period of time. There is no quick fix to these tensions, these subconscious tensions that exist within us. So it's a practice of compassion for self and others that's required. And in order to do that, there has to be an openness to recognize the tensions within our own selves and to hold them within a deeper, wider space of peaceful awareness again and again. So that openness is just prerequisite. If we're closed and we're just set on the way that we're viewing things and we're not willing to look within and really find those tensions within us, there's no possibility for compassionate action. There's no possibility for peace. So this ability to be compassionate is based on a deeper level of abiding peace. So it's one thing to say, oh, I want to be compassionate, but it has to be based in something, right? And there is a deeper peace that is available right here and right now, not down the road, but right here and right now. But to realize this deep abiding peace takes a different kind of attention than we normally use in our day-to-day activities and interactions. We approach this ever-present peace by turning inward through interoception and finding a deeper layer of awareness underneath and beyond all our habitual conflicting ways of viewing ourselves and others in the world. So today we want to talk about how we discover this deeper underlying peace and how that enables compassionate action that can work over time to resolve inner tensions and our tensions with each other. So I know, Stephen, you've been really interested in the work of Andrew Newberg and his research into spiritual experiences and the deeper peace that's found within it and the impact that it has on our consciousness and on our relationships and so on. So I'll pass it over to you to talk a little bit about that research.
Kevin, thank you. Thank you. And love and blessings to everybody who is listening. So, yeah, at this time of really very radical peace and transformative action and compassionate action, which is necessary for our world at the moment, Kevin. And, I'm obviously present as everybody else here as to what's happening in Ukraine and Europe and the fact that our whole world needs to bring compassionate action, and this has been done by countries all around Ukraine, of course, in helping refugees. And I was really present to the beauty of that at times a really deep struggle, we do reach out compassionately. We encourage families that are in real incredible difficulties, as many Ukraine families are, to come into our homes and our houses. If I was any closer than Japan, I'd be offering my house to anybody that could come and stay, because I know that in such a difficult time, we really embrace the power of the human spirit and this shared feeling that we all have, that we all recognize in each other: a father, a mother, a husband, a wife, a son, a daughter. Those are very real sentiments, and they move all of us when we see the faces of refugees and people who are suffering. We recognize our own face, And that's one of the crucial things, in compassionate action, that we recognize our own true face on the face of every single person that's suffering in that Ukraine situation. So I thought I just share, before I share a little on Andrew's work, I also share a little bit. I've been doing a practice with Mingyur Rinpoche for some time now, Bodhisattva compassion, which could Bodhisattva practice, which can also be considered compassionate action. And one of the great she was a yogini and a guru of around 100 years ago, Sarah Kundro. She was considered an emanation of the great Tibetan teacher Yeshe Sogyal, and she spoke about how to get beyond this hope and both hope and fear, right? Because both of them, in terms of grasping on to what's happening in our current situation, in order to get to really deep abiding peace, we have to actually let go of everything. And in a kind of a way, you can see that on many of the Ukraine refugees' faces, that everything has been taken away from them, and they kind of get to that point where there's just, it feels like there's nothing left. And she spoke about that. There's this beautiful quote where she said, in my isolated mountain retreat, because she was a renunciant for many years, like many of the yoginis are, my isolated mountain retreat of limitless appearances, remaining in the practice where the world and beyond arise as ornaments, I sustain the fundamental nature, free from fixating on hope and fear, gazing upon my own true face. Innate luminosity, I possess the instructions on self-liberation of appearances. And when you hear that at first, that all those words, there's often, as Mingyur Rinpoche says, there's often just, what does all that mean? Now, fundamentally, it means that you rest in this fundamental nature. This fundamental peace is free from all those emotions that tend to come with striving and grasping and struggling and trying to find some sense of support externally. You, in the end, that you turn to the one place you can turn, as you were saying, Kevin, that is interoception. You turn inwards towards your fundamental nature, and you actually do see your true face. Your true face is this ever eternal, calm, abiding peace that is not connected to any object or subject, so that it's free of identity, free of form, free of past or future. And you simply rest in this abiding peace, and then every activity arises from that. And I'm particularly present to the many mysteries and mystical experiences of the saints and the people who've over the years have done such compassionate action from this space of peace. Particularly, I'm thinking of Mother Teresa and other contemporary saints who, in the midst of great adversity, have kept this very calm and peaceful demeanor. Nelson Mandela is another wonderful being I also had a personal connection with, who in the face of great struggles in terms of his captors and in terms of the prejudices and challenges that he faced, also kept this real sense of deep courage and deep peace. And again, going back to the Ukrainian situation, I see that on the faces of many of the women and children, this, not only the confusion and fear, but deep underneath this real simple courage and this power to overcome all adversity and to be free from it. And so how do you do that? How does that actually really happen? How, as Sarah Kundro says, how do you sustain this fundamental nature that is free of all hope and fear, that is simply beyond that, is this calm, abiding peace and serenity and tranquility? So going to Andrew Newberg's work first, and this is one of his hypotheses that I think speaks to somewhat of what happens in the process of reaching this deep, calm, abiding peace. Is he speaks about the transformative power of these really deep mystical experiences that open us to peace. And quite often they come about through really deep adversity, just as the refugees are facing that. And he speaks about how the transformative aspect often relates to the frontal lobes. So in the beginning of a lot of these practices, we do a lot of activation practices, right, in meditation. And equally, when we're flying from a war zone, we're in a heightened state, right? It's our, as he terms it, the frontal lobe with its executive functions is kind of working really, really hard to work everything out, to kind of get everything in order. And the way he refers to it is that our brain allows us to hold all these different functions like filing cabinets. So that's how he compares the frontal lobe. And so, in fact, many different beliefs are held in all these different containers. Beliefs about the enemy, for example, or beliefs about our life, or beliefs about the struggles of our life, and beliefs about what we can do about it. They're all there in those frontal lobes. So the frontal lobe itself helps us to organize our belief systems. And he describes it a little bit like this filing cabinet with multiple folders that represent all the specific domains of our belief systems. So everything, relationship beliefs, job beliefs, moral beliefs, religious, spiritual beliefs, beliefs about, social structure, about, who's for, who's against, what do I do in this situation, and so on. So it helps, the frontal lobes help keep all these beliefs well organized. Now, in the case of a mystical or a deeply transformative experience, that can often come about through a deep shock, through suddenly, a shock. So I'm kind of giving an analogy to what is happening in a refugee's heart and mind, as well as what happens in a meditator's mind, that we are suddenly shocked by what we see in front of us. And equally with meditation, when you bring this potent energy into the frontal lobes and then you drop out of that into the parietal lobe, so you actually let go or surrender. And for many of the refugees, this is what's happened. If you look at it, the larger picture, there's this terrible surrender that happens because they're having to give up. They're leaving their fathers, husbands, sons behind, leaving their homes behind, leaving everything. And as a world, our heart lurches towards that surrender in the same way. We feel that with everybody that's going through that situation. And in the same way, in a meditation practice, you energize the frontal lobes, which up to that point have kept all our beliefs about who we are and how we're organizing all our beliefs. When we surrender or let go, or that aspect drops away, Andrew Newberg describes this as a sudden and dramatic and very rapid drop in the frontal lobe activity. So you can imagine in these analogies that you're either holding on for dear life, or you're also holding on to your identity, to your past, to your future, to every aspect of yourself. And then this, when you actually are either forced to let go or choose to let go, there's a significant decrease in the frontal lobe, and that occurs when it's a bit like taking all the folders out of your cabinet. You kind of take them all out of the frontal lobe, you throw them all up in the air because you're either choosing to surrender or you're forced to surrender, and then you stuff them all back into the cabinet suddenly. And in that transformative moment, the reorganization of everything you previously believed actually happens in a split instant. So the filing cabinet, there's a number of things that can happen, obviously. If you think of the analogy of the filing cabinet, is that you may lose some of the ones, or they might get deleted, because simply they're in this new reshuffle, they're no longer needed. Or you might find that some of them just they get reorganized in a different way. They're put where they might have been uppermost. They now don't have such an important positioning in that filing cabinet reshuffle. And so in a sense, the whatever was there, whatever is reshuffled, or whatever arises that's new, it has actually been there, and they're just rearranged now. So that's one way of considering it. Or on the other hand, it could be possible to consider that not only are these files rearranged, but these new files are added, or those old files that are no longer necessary are deleted in a really short period of time. So that means there is a totally new system in place. There's a totally new filing cabinet. And, again, likening this to what's happening in the refugee crisis is, I know in situations where my mum, for around about 30 years, my mum and we looked after the Cambodian refugees. So the refugees that were coming from the killing fields of the Khmer Rouge. And it was an extremely heartbreaking practice. My mum was awarded the Queen's Medal after many years of bringing around about 300 families from Cambodia and placing them in jobs and houses and everything. Brought their whole family. So I mean, not just the father, mother, children, but also the grandparents, the aunts, uncles. So Mum did a fantastic job, and I helped her for many, many years. And I was just really present to, and it'll move me, Kevin, because I was just so present to the beauty of these refugees, that they had lost everything, and yet, especially when Mum placed them in this, they just that extraordinary, gratitude and love, and, the power of the human spirit. And that's kind of, if there was a hope or a prayer, I'd maybe say, that I have in the Ukrainian situation, it's that, the human spirit is extremely potent, and that I've seen this with hundreds of refugee families from Cambodia, as I've seen what the power of the human spirit does, the incredible love and the incredible overwhelming peace, because that's what we're speaking to here, that actually is always present. I saw this in these particularly there was an old grandmother, her name was Chinu Chum. She was, one of our favorite grandmothers. And Kevin, she, to get her kids out of those killing fields, she had all her family money turned into gold, and then she got them put in her teeth. And then to stop the soldiers from killing her family, she'd pull these teeth, these gold teeth, to trade the lives of her kids, to get them out to safety. And of course, we remember this toothless grandmother, because she was very proud, extremely proud of this power of compassionate action. I can think of, no better example than her, because she'd been through tremendous adversity. She didn't get all her children out. There were a number that were, there were a number that so she was up to the mercy of the soldiers. They killed some of her kids. They let some others through. So you can imagine how traumatic it was. But at the end of it, this power of the human spirit in her, it was just like a miracle. She was one of the most, peaceful, loving, compassionate beings that I've ever met, this dear old grandmother. A wee tiny soul, she was barely like my mum. My mum was 5'2", and Chinicham was 5 foot. So, and when she passed on, my mum dedicated it in our church, because we were Catholics and brought up in that. And mum dedicated a bench to this lovely old grandma, and that remains in the church grounds to this day. So coming back to this compassionate action, because it was such a deeply moving experience, and having experienced it first hand with all these families, I can truly attest to the fact that the beauty of this human spirit, that underneath all that adversity and pain and struggle, there really is that calm, abiding peace and love and compassion that she had even for her captors. I mean, it was just incredible. She just said they didn't know what they were doing, that they were under the iron fist of Pol Pot at the time, and so she could see soldiers were just following orders and killing people. So just coming back to just how that happens and what we can do in our practices. One of the most basic practices that Mingyur Rinpoche speaks about in these compassionate, in the practice of compassionate action, is what's called to exchange yourself for another. That fundamentally he speaks, and most of the training I've done with the Dalai Lama and Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche and Mingyur Rinpoche has been around developing loving kindness and compassion and bodhicitta, which bodhicitta simply being that you bring compassion into every single action for every single person, knowing that at their heart there is this calm, abiding peace and love and kindness, whoever they are, that you literally have that desire and recognition that the other person is essentially a Christ or a Buddha or a Magdalene or a Yeshe Tsogyal, and that fundamentally every experience that we have actually is this calm, abiding peace and clarity and openness, that when you recognize it, that you recognize that this goes beyond suffering, that ultimately the suffering is caused when you don't recognize this calm, abiding and limitless peace, and that we suffer when we simply don't recognize our true nature. But the moment you see that, then you open to what's always been present, this love and compassion and peace. So the practice he advises, and you can do this simply with me, it's a very easy practice, is that you just rest your mind. So I'll just guide you simply through this. It's very short, and then I'll hand back to you, Kevin, because I know that you've got a lot to share on this as well. But when we rest in this open awareness, and because of that very heartfelt story, it might be easy for you to do that, to just rest in your heart and rest in the openness and the beauty of your own compassion, your own love for human beings. So when you rest like that, and you recognize that there is this openness, that we have this beautiful heart and mind that's beyond any concept, and that's fundamentally free and calm, and that it's your nature, but it's also the nature of all beings. It's the nature of all your friends and family. It's actually the nature of every soldier that's involved in this conflict. It's the nature of even people we don't like, and the nature of people we don't know, and it's the nature of all the animals and all beings. And that there's this problem that we don't recognize this true nature. We divide, and because of our ignorance, we create lots of different identities, people we like, people we don't, issues with this, issues with that. So the first thing you just do is you just dedicate what you're experiencing right now, even the struggles that you're experiencing right now, to helping everybody recognize their own peace. That you're actually going to practice cultivating peace to help others to find peace. And there are a number of practices. They're called equalizing self or exchanging self for others, that are really quite beautiful practices. So we first just rest like that, simply rest in this open, limitless peace. You can do it easily by just dropping into the heart, or feeling into a place in your body where you feel love or peace or calmness. You just rest for a moment. You might want to take a few deep calming breaths, breathing calm, happiness. Simply letting your heart and mind be as it is. Dedicating this to helping all beings to recognize their true nature. And first, just call to mind somebody who's better off than you. Maybe somebody who's got more wealth or prosperity or fame. Just for a moment, as you reflect on this person, whoever's come to mind, actually become them for a moment. Just assume their position or see the world through their eyes. And from this perspective, just look back at yourself. Turn your gaze back on yourself with this sense of pride or superiority. It might be helpful to do something like say, oh, well, I'm better than all these people, or I'm superior. Right? And while you cultivate this mind state, shift your awareness to the awareness within which this emotion of pride or whatever it is arising. So all emotions, whether they're wholesome or unwholesome, actually arise within this calm, abiding awareness. So just rest, aware of the emotion, whatever emotion has arisen, whatever emotion of pride or superiority arose for you, just rest in this knowing. And then try considering somebody who's lesser off than you, somebody who's in real struggle. And bring this person to mind and then assume their perspective and look back at yourself. Feel their experience. Maybe they're jealous of people or envious. Maybe they're struggling, and they turn to crime and they look back at yourself. So look back at yourself with their eyes, maybe jealousy or envy or in pain. I bet they are wishing, or you wish, that you were as well off as the real you that you're looking back at. Now, as you cultivate that felt sense, and this really is a felt sense, just recognize that these emotions too just simply arise out of awareness. Just rest in this knowing. Rest in this knowing awareness. Just simply embracing those emotions too, with awareness of awareness. You're aware of the emotions rising, whatever it is, even the discomfort that it might be to be in this position. You just rest in the knowing that this vast, calm, abiding awareness is capable of embracing all of this. Now finally just bring somebody to mind that you know, maybe that somebody who feels equal to you, perhaps somebody that might just have a little bit of competitiveness towards you at work, or somebody that might feel a certain way to you, that this could be just friendly, light competition, or just embody their experience and just imagine how they feel towards you. Somebody is equal. And as you reflect in this way, just bring to mind that these experiences too, no matter what they arise from awareness itself, that you're aware of the emotion that is arising. And you just embrace it, you just allow it. Just aware of the emotion itself. And just rest in this knowing. And then just relax, just simply relax. Relax into this calm, abiding peace that's always present, this awareness, and awareness is limitless. Just let the mind and heart rest as they are. Nothing to do, nowhere to go, no meditation, no meditator. Just understanding that all thoughts and feelings and emotions like this are simply expressions of this pure awareness. And that understanding this and understanding the true nature of all sentient beings, that might serve as motivation for you to help all beings recognize their true nature too. So just rest in that calm, abiding awareness, peace. As you do, just open your eyes gently, softly. Just look around as this peace, right? As this simple peace, this awareness. It's aware of everything. Even the objects in your room arise like those emotions. So they're just simply arising in pure awareness. That vision arises like that. Sounds arise like that. All the senses arise. All the thoughts and emotions just simply arise with an awareness itself. So thank you truly for your beautiful practice, and I'll pass back to you, dear Kevin, to continue the last part of this very heartfelt sharing.
Well, thank you, Stephen, for those powerful stories and that beautiful practice. I don't think I need to add much to that, but just reinforce the idea of taking time to put ourselves in each other's shoes. And before we're quick to blame or to have a strong opinion, to just put ourselves in the shoes of those in Ukraine and the Russian soldiers and people on all sides, and know that, all of that is a part of us. And we so like to hang on to an idea about who we are and an identity and what everyone is going through on all sides is part of what we're all going through on the inside. And just pausing and taking some time to feel that and to be present with that from a place of deeper peace. So thank you again, Stephen. And thank you all for listening and thank you for your practice. Peace and blessings to all. Bye for now.